الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. أما بعد، فإن أحسن الحديث كتاب الله، وخير الهدي هدي سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، وإن شر الأمور محدثاتها، وكل محدثة بدعة، وكل بدعة ضلالة، وكل ضلالة من النار. أما بعد, my dear respected brothers and sisters, Jazakumullah khair for tuning in. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you and elevate your status. Inshallah, today we're here with a new episodes and a new topic, bi'idhnillah ta'ala, and we want all of you, bi'idhnillah ta'ala, to participate in, and it's because it's an exciting topic that really affects many of us all over the world. My dear respected brothers and sisters, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, in regard to Sayyidina Hud alayhi salatu wassalam, when he was approaching his people, he said, وَأَنَا لَكُمْ نَاصِحٌ وَأَنَا لَكُمْ نَاصِحٌ, that I am for you, I'm a true advisor. And in another verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described the Prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when he said, وَأَنصَحُ لَكُمْ وَأَعْلَمُ مِنَ اللَّهِ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ, and I'm advising to you. So my dear respected brothers and sisters, for the issue of advising other people and giving the advice to other people is extremely important. And Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, when he described our deen, what did he say? He said, ad-deenu nasiha. As if all of our religion is what based on giving advice to each other. So advising each other and correcting each other is extremely important. And with you, before I go toward our guest with Allah Ta'ala, I want to share with you two beautiful sayings by Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and by a great Imam. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, if people could see this, and the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam قال والذي نفسي بيده لتأمرن بالمعروف ولتنهون عن المنكر أو ليشركن الله أن يبعث عليكم عذابا منه ثم يدعونه فلا يستجاب لكم. That look at the greatness of this hadith. He said that you shall make amr bil ma'ruf, that you advise people to do what is right, and you forbid them to do what is wrong. Oh, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would send a punishment from the heaven, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would not answer your dua. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would not answer your supplication. This is the greatness and the importance of al-amr bil ma'ruf wal nahy an munkar in our religion. My dear respected sisters, this is one of my favorite sayings, and I always say this. This is said by Imam Ibn al-Qayyim. What he said? He said, لا يكون المرء من أتباع الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم على حقيقة إلا من دعا إلى الله على بصيرة. He said that you shall not be, don't call yourself a Muslim. He said, don't call yourself a follower of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Don't you even dare call yourself a follower of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam unless you call into Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with what? With insight. So my dear respect, this is starting with this. It shows us the importance and the amplitude and the deepness of how important for us to give each other's advice. So, with that being said, my dear brothers, today we're going to be talking about the methodology of da'wah and when is it appropriate or not appropriate for the brothers to exhibit. Or is it appropriate that we should tell the brothers to exhibit? And that's one of the main questions that we want to answer today. My dear brothers and sisters, we have with me my brother and sheikh and colleague, Sheikh Yousef Sousi. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep him for us and preserve for us. He has been with us in the past, and he is, mashallah, he obtained his Islamic degree, and he speaks multiple languages with Allah Ta'ala. So stay tuned with Allah Ta'ala so we could jump into this very important subject and we could go over it with Allah Ta'ala. Stay tuned after this short commercial, and then بإذن ta'ala we will go into this subject. جزاكم الله خيرا. جزاكم الله خير. Welcome elevator status for coming here.
Allah yabarak fik, jazakallah khair, Allah yabarak fikum, Dr. Marwan. It's a pleasure always to be with you, to share the platform, and to be a participant, an active participant on the AskAMuslim show. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He makes what we say as a proof for us on Judgment Day and not a proof against us. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He purifies our intentions so that what we say is out of pure love and ghaira for the deen, and not because of a perceived jealousy or envy that some might assume out there. Allahumma ameen.
So,
Jazakallah khair also for the introduction.
Go ahead, Sheikh.
Go ahead, Doctor.
No. You want to say something? Go ahead.
We want to get into here. So Allah subhanahu, as you clearly articulated, Dr. Marwan, that we as Muslims, we have to come to terms with the fact, with the obvious fact that enjoining what is good and forbidding what is evil is the bedrock of this ummah. In other words, al-amr bil ma'ruf wa nahy anil munkar, you as a Muslim, you've signed a waiver saying that now, because I'm a Muslim, I am literally allowing Muslims to enjoin what is good and forbidding what is evil, even if I am the subject of that act, right? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, and the verses are immense in the Quran, لا تعد ولا تحصى, where Allah says, كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس. And all of us know this verse. That's the irony, Dr. Marwan, is that sometimes we might come off as being surprised, but this verse is repeated by every Tom, Dick, Jeff, and Harry, or Muhammad, Abdullah, or Aisha, or Ruman. All of us Muslims know that these verses exist out there. But when Allah says that you are the best of nation brought out for mankind, I think the $1 million question is for us to obviously ask, well, why? Right? لماذا? Allah says three things. تأمرون بالمعروف, you enjoin what is good. وَتَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ, and you forbid what is evil, and you believe in Allah. Now I want to ask you and your audience, Dr. Marwan, what is more important, to enjoin what is good and forbid what is evil, or to believe in Allah?
Believe in Allah.
To believe in Allah. Yeah, the ulama, they said, because of how important and imperative and dire it is to keep everything balanced, is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala قَدَّمَ الْأَمْرُ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَالنَّهْيَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ عَلَى الْإِيمَانِ بِهِ. So Allah, He placed these before believing in Him. Now Allah says in the Quran also, وَلْتَكُنْ مِنْكُمْ أُمَّةٌ يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ وَيَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ. Notice that Allah says, let there be a community within you that enjoys what is good and forbids what is evil. The Prophet ﷺ as well, he says, مَنْ رَأَى مِنْكُمْ مُنْكَرًا فَلْيُغَيِّرْهُ بِيَدِهِ فَمِنْ لَمْ يَسْتَطِعْ فَبِلِسَانِهِ فَإِنْ لَمْ يَسْتَطِعْ فَبِقَلْبِهِ وَذَلِكَ أَضْعَفُ الْإِيمَانِ. Is that whomsoever who sees an evil, a munkar, a mischief, let him change it, let him, of course, or her, change it with his or her hands. If you cannot do that, and you're not allowed to do that, then the second step under that is to change it with your tongue. Speak against it. It's haram. Say this is not acceptable in the sight of Allah. Say this incurs the wrath of Allah. Say this is not acceptable in our religion, etc. The third option is, and no one is relieved of this obligation, and that's why the ulama, they say أعمال القلوب أكثر أعمال القلوب ميزانها أكثر من أعمال الجوارح, because sometimes you cannot enjoin what is good and forbid what is evil with your hands. You don't have the ability to do it, or doing that is going to cause a greater harm. Okay, so you're relieved of that. Step number two is you might not be able to speak about it because harm might befall you, but harm here is a definite harm, not a perceived. It is something that is for surety. So you say, you know what, I don't have the luxury of speaking against it. Three is you have to, this is fard ayn upon every Muslim, is you have to be tested, and you have to feel something here in your heart that you know deep inside, in the inner recesses of my heart, أنا لهذا الأمر لكاره. I hate it, I detest it in my heart. Why, ya Allah? Because it displeases you. Okay. Now, moving from that, Dr. Marwan, if you don't mind me asking as well, who's the best example sent to mankind?
Sayyidina Rasulullah.
The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? Okay. In the Quran, in many places in the Quran, you find that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam وصف بالنذارة وبالبشارة. إن أرسلناك بالحق بشيرا وَنَذِيرًا. The Prophet ﷺ, when Allah describes the messenger, the reason why the Prophet was sent is to give glad tidings, but to also forbid what is evil. In other words, to warn as a warner, but to also give glad tidings. Now, but the irony is interesting when you look at Surah Al-Muddathir, وهي السور الأوائل التي نزلت في القرآن. It's one of the first surahs in the Quran, right? Yeah. Right. What does Allah say in Surah Al-Muddathir? يا أيها المدثر قم فبشر. No. That's one of the first things in the Quran. يا أيها المدثر قم. First, O Muddathir, you stand up, rise up, and do what after that? فأنذر, and to warn. Right? So the Prophet ﷺ, muhimmatuhu ad-da'awiyya, is for him to enjoin what is good and forbid what is evil. These two are inextricably linked in Islamic teaching or in the Islamic religion. In Islam, these are two inextricably linked. You cannot have one while neglecting the other, and you cannot do the opposite as well. Now, this, when I heard this, Dr. Marwan, I was bothered by this because the first verse that came to my mind, when you have a relationship with the Quran, the first verse that came to my mind when I heard this, I was bothered by it. I truly was. As much as I respect the brother, and as much as I have respect and honor him, I have to say this is a saqta, this is not acceptable. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he speaks about the hypocrites, he says, Al-munafiqun wal-munafiqat ba'duhum min ba'd ya'muruna bil-munkar wa yanhawna 'anil ma'ruf wa yaqbiduna aydiyahum. The hypocrites, they are from one another. What do? They enjoin what is evil and they forbid what is good. To me, that's what it comes off as. If we're going to have to basically zip it, turn the other way, and not speak about these obvious problems that are open and out there and that basically other Muslims are influenced by, I'm afraid that we're basically, Allah is speaking about us. And I find this to be very, very scary if we're just going to turn the other way and not. So they go hand in hand. You cannot have one without the other. It's an integral process. It's not piecemeal. We cannot take one and abandon the other.
SubhanAllah, this is actually extremely important, Sheikh. Because thing is, as you have inferred to, like the problem here is that our deen, it's a balance between tabshir and indar. So, but unfortunately, many people neglect the Nadir part, and they only, they focus on the Bishara part. Like they don't want to be like, they don't want to be warned. They want to be like, oh, let me just hear the good aspect of it. And with that mentality, with that mindset, what happened? A lot of people, unfortunately, and as you have beautifully have put it, and they wanted to look for advices or speeches of some scholars that put down the people who warns, put down the people who want to speak. They want to see well, right. I mean, granted, yes, I absolutely agree. There are certain, for instance, regulations and conditions that would have to come, and that's part of the reason why we're having this meeting, is because we want to clarify that. So going to the second question, Sheikh, who has the obligation? Like for instance, when we talk about, for instance, a brother advising a sister, or a sister advising a brother, who has the authority? Who have the obligation to advise a sister, or vice versa?
Okay. Before I get into that, if I may take just a few minutes to clarify here, what you said at the very beginning of the show, I want to piggyback off of that idea, and that is that we offer a lot of reasons or excuses as to why we don't want to hear the truth. Now, Shaitan, for example, Dr. Marwan, Shaitan is not going to come to one of us and say, by the way, Muhammad, Abdullah, Khadija, Roman, you don't like the truth. Shaitan is not going to come and say that to us, but Shaitan is going to basically give it a different title, if you will. So you're going to hear it's a laundry list of excuses that people will offer, but I'm afraid this is just another way of saying وَلَكِنْ لَا تُحِبُّونَ النَّاصِحِينَ. So for example, you hear people saying it's not the right time. There are more important things to worry about in the ummah, brother. Brother, you shouldn't have said it that way. Well, brother, you should have said it with much love and a bigger smile. So there's always, or anytime you say directly that something is haram, people are moved out by it. They're taken out of their comfort zones, and people will come to you with excuse after excuse after excuse. But Salih, when he came to his people, now can anyone accuse Salih of not having wisdom? No. Salih mu'ayyadun bil wahy min qibali rabbih. Salih alayhi salam is given revelation from Allah as to how to give da'wah. So no one can accuse Salih alayhi salam of lacking wisdom, right? Or insight or knowledge. So Salih alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he talks about his story. He says, فَتَوَلَّى عَنْهُمْ وَقَالَ يَا قَوْمْ لَقَدْ أَبْلَغْتُكُمْ رِسَالَةَ رَبِّي وَنَصَحْتُ لَكُمْ وَلَكِنْ لَا تُحِبُّونَ النَّاصِحِينَ. He says, oh my people. He turned away from them, and then he turned back and said, oh my people, I've conveyed the message of my Lord to you, and I've given you advice, but you do not like advisors. You do not like admonition. In other words, I am afraid, Dr. Marwan, that a lot of these excuses that we hear day in and day out, you should have said it a different way, is it the right time, we have more important things to worry about in the ummah. I am afraid these are just other ways of saying, I don't want to hear the truth. I don't want to hear it, period. But it makes us feel better when we offer and put these excuses forward. That's what bothers me, and that's what scares me. Now, going back to your question, who is it? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he told the messenger, he says, ad-din al-nasiha, ad-din al-nasiha 3 times when the companion came to the Prophet. Now, who is the nasiha for? لأئمة المسلمين وعامتهم نعم ولأئمة المسلمين لله ولرسوله ولكتاب الله وللمسلمين أئمتهم وعامتهم. It's for Allah and His Messenger and His book, for the A'imma, the rulers of the Muslims, the general bodies, if you will, and also for the average Muslim. There is no one, absolutely no one, irrespective of your career, irrespective of what comes before your name. Ad-deenu la yuhabi ahada. You're a doctor, you're a contractor, regardless of what you are. No one, not myself, not the imam, not the Muslim ruler, no one is absolved of enjoining what is good and forbidding what is evil. Now, that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, and some people when they speak about the rulers and not speaking about the rulers, when Allah says, لا يسأل عما يفعل وهم يسألون, He is not asked about what He does, but they are asked. This is referring to Allah, not the Muslim ruler. Okay? There are ways of advising the Muslim ruler. That's a whole separate topic. But all of us, irrespective of where we are, what we've accomplished in our worldly gains, etc., no one is absolved of this mas'uliyah, right?
True.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the thing is, I wanted to add a little bit to what you said, Jazakallah, and I think you have put it beautifully. Many people, akhi, I mean, they kind of use the saying of Sayyidina Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked him to go to Fir'aun, فَقُولَا لَهُ قَوْلًا لَيِّنًا لَعَلَّهُ يَتَذَكَّرُ أَوْ يَخْشَى. And say to him, soft words, but they tend to forget about when Sayyidina Musa used to tell Fir'aun at the end, وَإِنِّي لَأَظُنُّكَ يَا فِرْعَوْنُ مَثْبُورًا. I think Fir'aun, you are going to be destroyed, So the thing is, and that's the balance that we are looking for, subhanAllah, because the thing is, there is a balance between us. So go a little bit further, Sheikh. Are there any... Further.
Okay, here, and like you said, I think that's why when we don't have a good idea of the Quran, we think that at each and every scenario, at each and every level, with some people you have to smile, some people you have to be harsh. What works with people who smile possibly doesn't work with others. So and as you said, that was the initial invitation from Musa to Fir'aun. Says, اذهب له فقل له قولا لينا لعله يتذكر أو يخشى, right? And they said, oh, we are afraid. But that wasn't it. It didn't stop there. If you continue the last page of Surah Al-Isra and you read Surah Yunus, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, رَبَّنَا إِنَّكَ قَدْ آتَيْتَ مُوسَى فِرْعَوْنَ وَمَلَأَهُ زِينَةً وَأَمْوَالًا فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا رَبَّنَا فَاطْمِسْ عَلَى أَمْوَالِهِمْ وَاشْدُدْ عَلَى قُلُوبِهِمْ. That doesn't seem to be soft. He made dua against it, right? So we have to hear. There's this bubble, there's this teddy bear image of Islam that a lot of people are selling and a lot of Muslims are buying that I'm sorry, this is not Islam, which is not to say that Islam is all about being harsh and rough and tough on the edges. It's not the teddy bear, but it's not a consecutive, consistent being harsh, rough, and tough around the edges all the time. Doctor, I want to ask you a question. A sister, for example, when we talk about hijab, when we talk about our sister's dress, when we talk about our sister wearing perfume out in public or whatever, we're not picking on the sisters here, but I think when we tell the brothers to zip it, we have to elaborate as to what's what. Now, sister, usually when you hear it at the masjid and you talk about hijab, or you talk about something that has to do with women, which, by the way, is on the verge of extinction. Let me just put that out there. For men to talk about women's issues on the minbar because of a so-called maslaha, because of so-called other things to worry about, men on the minbar, generally speaking, they're not talking about women's issues. Let me just get that out of the window. Number two, when we see a sheikh talking about, for example, the hijab and its conditions, is there a sister that could be turned off? Is there a sister that could say, I'm never coming back to this masjid again? The sheikh was judgmental. He was talking directly at me. He made me, the masjid is not accepting me as I am. Are there sisters who will feel that way, Doctor?
Of course. I mean, that's nasiha by nature is supposed to hurt, I would say.
Okay. Doctor, my question for you perhaps, and even your general audience is, what happened to the sister who left the masjid praising and thanking Allah that Allah put in front of her someone who's willing to get out of his comfort zone, who has a little bit of courage, who's a little bit bold to speak up and say the hijab is ABC XYZ? What happens to that sister who's thankful and goes to the sheikh and says, Sheikh, I've been coming to the masjid for 10 years. I've never heard that hijab is not this and hijab is that. May Allah reward you, ya Sheikh. I'm starting a new page with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala today. What happens to that sister's testimony? Is that thrown out of the window? Why is the sister's testimony who has a problem and is complaining, why does her testimony take precedence? Is it more valid or more important than the testimony of the sister who says, wow, I never knew that. I've been coming to the masjid for 20 years. No imam has ever given a lecture about hijab. No man has ever talked about that. I can't leave that. Mu'attara, having perfume, etc. May Allah reward you. Why do we not take that sister's testimony into consideration? Rather, Doctor, what we do, now we have to have a serious talk. The board has to have a serious talk with the imam. Yeah, you're scaring sisters away from the masjid. You didn't make them feel good. You didn't make them feel, you didn't accept them as they are. And the list goes on and on, as if the imam committed a crime on the minbar, right? So we have to be fair. We have to be fair in our analysis of things, in our evaluation of matters. We have to be fair. We cannot zoom in on one sister's complaint and think, oh my God, we're lacking wisdom. We need to change the imam, perhaps. We should never talk about this topic. I mean, the list goes on and on, but we have to understand. Another point too, Dr. Marwan, before I forget. The sister, how many sisters have truly changed because of an advice given by a sincere, well-respected, honorable brother who gave nasiha to a fellow sister? Many.
That's the way things change. That's the way things change. People tend to forget that. Like, I mean, the member or general advice, it is a place where people give advice that are important to the ummah. I'm like, for instance, what is the point of me or you, Sheikh? And that's what gets me all furious sometimes. What is the point of me and you getting up to the member and talk about wudu while everybody's making wudu? I mean, it's absolutely like, what is the point of it? When you get up to the member, you talk about things that we are deficient of. Yeah, I want to come to the masjid because I want to learn something. I want to come to the masjid because I want to be a better individual. I want to come to the masjid so I can decrease of the amount of sins that I am committing. But if I'm going to come to the masjid so someone would come and pat me in the back and tell me, good job, you're doing well, what's the point of me coming to the masjid? That's the thing that really gets me thinking.
Doctor, I agree with you on that, because the Muslims, they know they have to make wudu. They know that already. But how many good, see, we're not picking on the sisters here, but how many good-hearted, well-intentioned sisters go to the masjid for years on end, but they do not know that what they're doing is not according to the Sharia. And we're not nitpicking here and saying that you have to wear a, but as you said earlier, we all know that we have to make wudu. But the way we're looking at things, there's a lot of clarifications that have to be done. The sister, I want to end with this point, at least for this segment. Dr. Marwan, sisters, there are many sisters who have changed and started a new page with their religion because of a fellow brother, because of a fellow sister or a fellow brother who has given them nasiha. There are some parents, Dr. Marwan, who simply don't know better. Now, it's very easy for our brother to say, well, leave it to the parents. Well, what if the parents are completely against hijab to begin with? What if the parents, they themselves, هناك شبهة علقت في قلوبهم ويرون أن الحجاب مجرد لباس يعني إفرنجي وما أدري إيش. You're going to find there are certain parents who don't know really that hijab is mandatory upon any woman who reaches the age of puberty. You have many women, many fathers and mothers who have flimsy grounds as to why their daughter should not wear the hijab. They think it is something that is borrowed from Saudi culture, it's just cultural, and the list goes on and on. So another brother who steps in and clarifies that for her, isn't that brother to be rewarded? I would say yes.
Of course. I mean, that's given. I mean, subhanAllah, but the thing is, like you mentioned, this is the methodology of the shaitan. I mean, what kind of barriers? I mean, and we always have to think about this. What kind of barriers shaitan is going to put between us and receiving the advice? And it's all going to be always going to be barriers. And this is part of the description of al-kibr, as Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam have described. And that a person who would not take an advice, that's an actual definition of what's considered to be an arrogance. We don't want to go into too much of that, because the thing is, there's many things we wanted to talk to you, but I want to take advantage of it. So going a little bit deeper, Sheikh.
Okay.
Yeah. So are there any restrictions? Like, for instance, because we have to talk about this too, because not anybody could talk and give an advice. Is there any restrictions for someone to give an advice? Like, what have to be some of the characteristics of the individual that he must have, or some restrictions that must be there before someone could open his mouth?
Very good. I'll maybe share a story, although يعني من باب الأمانة العلمية القصة فيها ضعف. But we all are, I think, too familiar, because this shows a woman's independence and a woman's, determination, etc. We all are very familiar. I think we are far too familiar with the story of the woman who stopped Umar radiallahu anhu after giving a khutbah. All right. Mm-hmm. And Umar radiallahu anhu noticed that the people started to increase the price of the dowry, and he wanted to put a limit to it. Now, Umar radiallahu anhu, as soon as he got off the minbar, the woman came to him and she said, how are you going to put a limit when Allah and His Messenger did not? Right? How can you put a limit to the dowries? So Umar anhu, he goes back to the minbar and he said, Al-mar'atu wa akhta'a Umar. Umar made a mistake and the woman was right. So a woman who was knowledgeable in a certain matter went to Umar. This is 7th century Arabia here, guys. This is 7th century Arabia. A woman, a Muslim woman, a Sahabi radiallahu anha, goes to Umar and tells him, kayt wa kayt wa kayt. Umar that, I mean, talk about having humility and having your pride really suppressed and oppressed, right? Umar just says, I forgot, the woman was right, I was wrong. He doesn't say, I am a man. He doesn't say, I'm the leader of the Muslims. He doesn't say, you're just a woman, worry about your kitchen. He doesn't say none of that, right? Now, Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, he passes by a woman one time and he says, Ayna turidin ya amat al-jabbar. Now, we're not Abu Hurairah, and our sisters today are not the Sahabi that Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu was addressing. Get that out of the way. I understand that. But Abu Hurairah, when he sees this Sahabiya radiallahu anha, wa radiallahu anhu, ma jama'ana Allahu ma'ahum fi illiyin, ameen. When he sees this woman, what does he do? He says, Ayna turidin ya amat al-jabbar. He passes by, the woman passes by Abu Hurairah. Abu Hurairah smells a strong fragrance from this woman. So he asks her, O servant of the Most High, where are you? She said, I'm going to the masjid. The Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu was surprised. He asked, he said, تَطَيَّبْتِ لِلْمَسْجِدِ? You put on this fragrance because you're going to the masjid? He says, I heard the Prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, ما من امرأة تطيبت وخرجت من بيتها وريحها تعصف إلا فعليها أن ترجع إلى بيتها وتغتسل لا يقبل الله صلاتها حتى تغتسل. There's not a woman who puts on fragrance, leaves her home to go to the masjid to pray, only that she would have to come back and home to remove it, so Allah accepts her prayer. Now, a sister, first off, when a sister hears this, why do I become the problem? Why do I become, oh, don't invite him back to our MSA? Why do I become a woman hater? Why do I become judgmental? Why does this list go on and on and on? Make sure he never comes to our university again. Why are you mad at me? Like, what's your beef with me? I mean, I'm just a messenger, right? So Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu finds it absolutely okay to give this sister, it's not his sister, it's not his wife, it's not his grandmother, it's a random sister in the street. Now the woman radiallahu anha, she thought that was okay to go to the masjid. I mean, it's logical. You're going to the masjid, you get beautified for the masjid, you put on the perfume, but she was not aware of this hukum because Islam was still in its infancy stages. It's not like today where you have the internet, you have the lectures, you have everything at your tippy fingers, and you can know the ins and outs of each and every mas'ala, right? But what did she say? She didn't say, who are you? She didn't say, well, you're a man, you don't know what we go through, so you have no reason to judge us. She doesn't go through all this, whatever you want to call it, yani, this mumbo jumbo, right? He gives her advice, she takes the advice, and people move on. It was very simple. Do you know why? Because they had their egos and pride in check.
Oh man, you put it into the heart, Sheikh. Allah yazzik al-khair. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you. So don't go into the even digging a little bit deeper now, huh? We're gonna dig a little bit deeper. So
please do.
If you notice, Sheikh, why is it more sensitive for a brother to advise a sister more than the other way around? Like for instance, yani, just like as you've mentioned, yani, because it becomes a big issue. It's become a revolution. It becomes a coup if a brother or an imam give the advice.
No, you're right. You're right. Yes, his career is destroyed. His invitations are rescinded. They're canceled. He's don't ever and then
He's it's the end of the day. But yet it's not. People don't think. I mean, the other way around is absolutely okay. Why is that? Why is it so that it's so more sensitive for the brother to give a sister an advice more than the other way around?
Can I be frank, Doctor? I mean, I am, whether you say yes or no.
This is the show. So, speak your heart out. Allah yarda alayk.
Doctor, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Ever since this egalitarian movement started gaining track and it started to grow and gain followers, anti-men sentiments came along with it, right? So in other words, the feminist movement.
Could you explain that movement for us so people would be on the same page a little about it, or define it for us?
Yeah. Well, although they like to say that. Sure. I mean, when you look at the egalitarian movement or the gender equality movement, although it comes off as harmless, it comes off as a movement that, hey, all we want at the end of the day is we women want equal rights with men. It comes off as innocent and it comes off as something really good, right? But along with that, unfortunately, later on, it also came along with it with a lot of anti-men sentiments. That men have been abusing women since time immemorial, that the patriarchy has to go down. There are no good men. The best man is the one who's dead, not alive. So we cannot shoot the door. We owe it to ourselves, whether we like it or not. We are all a product of our society. So when you have sisters who kind of jumped on this bandwagon, you cannot tell me that they're not going to be influenced by a lot of this anti-men. No man tells me how to dress. No man tells me what to do. Who is he to tell me what to do? Well, he's my husband. He should not judge me. He should just accept me as I am. In this, the rhetoric just goes on and on and on and on. So this idea, basically, all these collectively put together, it falls under a woman's autonomy. In other words, nobody tells me what to do. And Sheikh, Dr. Marwan, that's the society we're living in, is it not?
It is, definitely.
No one tells you what to do. No one judges you. No one should tell you how to dress. It's no one's business. You do yourself, do you. You know, and this kind of, and it's really, it falls back to your ego, your pride. No one tells you what to do, and the list just goes on and on. So we cannot say.
Yeah, the thing is that I find this is one of the things that they're coming out with right now is like, you know, only like the issue of the hijab or other women-related issues, it only can be advised by other women. So it always like makes me think about this. I mean, I understand that certain things that it's more befitting. I'm not going to disagree. Certain things are more befitting for women to advise other women. But in the same token, Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was a man, and he did advise women. And there is nothing that, and if we talk about like all the ahadith, I have not seen an issue or restriction for a man to advise a woman as long as certain ways are being followed, being gentle, being wise, being not trying to expose her, all the things that we are aware of. So, but still, with all of that, it's like it become a taboo. Like men are not allowed to advise women. Why? I mean, so if you could go into this a little bit further.
Sure. Again, Doctor, I believe this emanates from the anti-men sentiments that's starting to literally pollute our societies, right? Let me make a clarification here. In Islam, there's no such restriction that exists that only women can give advice to women and only men can advise men. Now, let me ask you, when a sister tells me, Yousef, Sousi, lower your gaze, do I have the right, can I justify me looking at other women by telling her sister, you have absolutely no idea how difficult it is for us women with all the fitna out there. You have no idea how difficult it is for me, myself, and I, or my fellow men out there to lower our gaze. You cannot relate to what we're going through. Please keep your comments to yourself. Thank you. Move along and kick rocks. Do I have the right to say that? No.
No.
No, that is silly. That is awfully silly for a sister to think that to even entertain that idea that because you cannot relate to hijab, then you should not speak on behalf. Well, you cannot relate to the fitna that we men experience out there with women, and no, the fitna is not alike, period, right? Regardless of how you want to dissect it and cut it and slice it, the fitna is not the same. وَمَنْ قَالَ لَكَ غَيْرَ ذَلِكَ فَهُوَ دَجَّالٌ كَذَّابٌ. All right, just want to get that out of the way. So going back to my point here is women can advise men, men can advise women. But I do agree, if we're talking about general nasiha and general advice, sometimes, yes, advice can be taken more from a sister than a man and vice versa. And vice versa, I agree. But to say for that to be the rule of thumb, that you have to be in my shoes and to experience what I'm going through for you to give me advice, that has no place at all in our Sharia, not at all.
Beautiful.
I mean, Allah in the Quran, Dr. Marwan, does he not say, وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتِ, the believe in men and the believe in women? What do? بَعْضُهُمْ أَوْلِيَاءُ بَعْضٍ, they're caretakers of one another. They enjoy what is good and forbid what is evil. So this right here, I think, refutes and debunks a lot of this, flimsy arguments that a lot of people want to make. Sure, Doctor, can I be very frank with you? I think the real issue is not that. The real issue is today, what some women are pushing for is men need to just be quiet, zip it and shut up. And men have been telling women what to do since time immemorial, and it's time for them to take the back seat and be quiet. Don't tell us what to do. We know what's good for us. I'm not a little girl. I don't need some man telling me go here and turn here and don't do this. And Again, the problem with that is ego and pride. I, as a man, have no problem with a sister telling me, Sheikh, this is wrong. You should do this, do A, B, C, X, Y, Z. I will not, again, come up with the flimsy excuse or argument of, well, sister, you have no idea what I am going through. I say, Jazakallah khair, A, B, C, X, Y, Z. But I will not say you have to first experience what I'm going through. I mean, that's, subhanAllah. Look, we hear it out there, but it doesn't mean it's a coherent statement.
Sure.
Right?
Sure. So go on to the next question, and that's going to be the most important question that I believe that the reason why we made this show. Sheikh Yasser Al-Qadi, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward him. He made a statement not too long ago saying that the brothers need to zip it. And just to kind of make this clear and make this disclaimer, I don't like to respond to shuyukh. We don't like to respond. I mean, you have people, that's what they do 24/7. This is like their life is, how can I respond to Sheikh X and how can I respond to Sheikh Y? But this is not our intent whatsoever. Our intent here is to kind of comment. Our intent here is to kind of see, explain what possibly the Sheikh has meant, because some of the statement can be explained and interpreted by different groups based on their own desires. But the Sheikh, what he said that, yes, Al-Qadi said that some brothers need to zip it, So the question here, does the brothers really need to zip it, Sheikh? I mean, how could we comment on this? I don't want to say respond. How could we comment on this and explain it in the right way?
Well, when I first heard it, I was taken back a bit, because when we say zip it, it's two things. Zip it is either street language, which ill befits a man of that caliber to speak with. And again, zallat lisan, we make mistakes. It's not the end of the world that he said it. We don't want to give people the idea that we're here looking for the mistakes of Yasser Qadi or the likes of Dr. Yasser Qadi. We're not here to do that. So when you say zip it, it's street language. It ill befits, يعني فليترفع عن هذا له نصيحة zip it. That's how some parents, when they're aggravated with their children and their children are speaking back, you tell your child sometimes out of aggravation, they're talking back when they're not supposed to, you'd say, okay, just zip it, I had enough, be quiet, right? So it's condescending. Now with the brother who's given nasiha, and he hears that from someone like Dr. Yasser Qadi, that's not going to encourage that brother to speak up anytime soon, right? Now the brother is already, Sheikh Dr. Marwan, it's difficult as it is to say something, as we mentioned earlier, give zakat, be good, wake up for salat, هذا الأمر بالمعروف, everybody's speaking about it, right? But when it comes to forbidding evil, this is where it takes a certain kind of mentality to spring up, to stand up, to be bold and courageous enough to speak up and say A is A, B is B, etc., etc. So this brother who's already cornered from so many corners, he's now cornered by someone else, right? But let me take this a step further. Dr. Yasser Qadi, when he said that, there are two possibilities here. One is that Yasser Qadi, when he said this, perhaps was speaking in I hope this is what
Assalamu alaikum, my dear respectful. It seems like there was an interruption with the link, so we're gonna ask Sheikh Yousef to come back, inshallah. So let's see. We're waiting for him to come back with Allah Ta'ala. Jazakumullah khair. Just stay tuned, then inshallah he will come back with Allah Ta'ala pretty soon. So in the meantime, we're going to be actually trying to see whether we could respond to some of or the comments some of the brothers have said. So let's see. Jazakumullah khair. Okay, so Brother Hassan Sharif, he said, women under Christianity were extremely oppressed, and women are to blame for the added mistakes, according to them. That's true. They even say that the monthly period given to them is a punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's true. And this is something that, I think that I find it very important that people, Islam came to elevate women rather than to submerge them. So Sheikh Yousef Qadhi, so there was an interruption in the video, so you can go ahead and continue. Jazakallah khair.
Afwan.
Tafadhal, yeah.
Sorry, I don't know.
Hey, you're fine.
I guess the connection stopped for a few minutes there.
Yeah, you can go ahead and continue, Sheikh. Tafadhal.
Dr. Marwan, what I wanted to say earlier is that Dr. Yousef Qadhi, there are two things. He could have either meant that people who, they're caused by unstable internet. It's possible what he meant is that there are people who are and about haram, and this is not this and this is not that, and so forth. So in other words, they're so predictable that they become a turnoff. Are there brothers like this who exist out there? Absolutely, yes. There are many brothers out there who exist who turn people away because they feel like it's their duty to give a sister advice. They don't know when to turn the other eye. They don't know when to act as if they don't see it. They don't, so they're aktharu, right? It's too much and it becomes a turnoff. They're so predictable. Even now, what they'll do is they'll start avoid. Doctor?
Yeah, I can hear you. Like the connection is coming on and off.
I can't see Dr. Marwan.
I can see you.
Doctor?
Yeah, I can see you. Tafadhal. I can see you, Sheikh. Tafadhal.
The internet is not.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I haven't been disconnected, so I think it's can be from your end, because my connection is fine, but I haven't been disconnected from the internet yet. Okay.
Okay, is this I
Oops.
Are you around?
Yeah, it's good. Tafadhal.
Doctor?
Yeah, I can hear you. Tafadhal.
Yeah, you're. I can't see your. Okay. Are we back in action?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I was getting at there is that possibly Dr. Marwan, he was probably speaking, or Dr. Yousef Qadhi, he was probably speaking of a fi'a mu'ayyana, of a certain, young, overzealous brothers who feel like it's their duty day in and day out to give advice to this sister, to give advice to that sister, to give advice to this sister.
I think we lost the Sheikh again. Right. No problem, inshallah. So Here we go. He's back again. Please bear with us, guys. So we're trying to fix this technicality, inshallah. طيب. So my dear respected brothers and sisters, and here we're the purpose is here to clarify what some of the scholars have been saying. Jazakumullah khair. Here we go. And we should be back with Allah Ta'ala. Okay, great. Fadal, Sheikh. We're good.
I hope this stays around and it doesn't glitch on us again.
So
what I wanted to say, if that's what Yasser Qadhi, if that's what Dr. Yasser Qadhi meant, he was talking about the brothers who are going overboard with nasihah. They feel like they have to give nasihah. Okay, so if he's talking about that, then that's a whole story. But if he believes that brothers in general have a say at all, my sisters, then I'm not sure where he got this from, and we ask him to reconsider and to definitely take back his word. The other thing as well is when that there's already I don't know what's in my heart. What better, only a little. So you have that already. I feel like this is kind of a shield or whatever. And you have others are fashion industry that under I believe this lure industry was of course guys choices about why be a little faster. You have this $1 million industries. He said, I think because that mentioned first, and for I think other Muslims as well. Now, our sisters are targeted. Our women are being targeted by a lot of these industries. They're being targeted by the ads. They're being targeted by a lot of these marketing schemes. And some of our sisters, unfortunately, they fall for it and they think that they're breaking barriers and they're breaking walls and they're building bridges. And wallahi, none of that is happening. None of it at all.
So to kind of go further into this, Sheikh, when it be appropriate that we should say the brothers should be quiet when And does this open a gate?
One more time, Doctor, the voice was on.
When the brothers should zip it, does this open the gate for others to do whatever they want? I mean, that's the question.
Sure, Doctor. We don't, in with all of the marketing going on, we don't have the luxury to zip it. Look, do I want to make enemies? Do I want a sister to watch? But we don't have the luxury to zip it. When you have so many people, Doctor, when you have so many people from so many directions shooting all of their arrows towards one direction, and you think that the solution is just to remain quiet, silent, and look the other direction, how do you fight back? It's only by silence that the evil continues to grow. The evil becomes generally accepted by the people. So if you speak up, if the Mufti Mink doesn't speak up, if the by the next hijabi model, she's going to get her deen from progressive Muslim who has a PhD in philosophy and thinks that hijab is just cultural and that's all it is. Who are our sisters going to get genuine knowledge from? Because, Doctor, if you want to ask behind closed doors, me, yourself, all of the guys in America, we in closed doors, we're probably all going to agree what hijab is. I'm going to take that you're a woman dressed like you. That is using you as a sexual object. You're telling me they're looking out for your best interest, and I'm the judgmental prick because I said, sister, this is not Islamic. This goes against Islam. I'm your enemy, and the fashion industry is your buddy best friend. ما لكم كيف تحكمون؟ والله عجيب. This is unbelievable. I the eternal enemy now, right?
And this is
Dr. Marwan.
Yeah, and this is unfortunately makes the situation very sad.
Dr. Marwan,
I can hear you. Can you hear me? So, with the last question, Sheikh.
Yes, Doctor.
With the last question, so what will be the balance between being quiet and saying something? When could we say, well, it's appropriate for me now to be quiet?
Yes.
Versus,
go ahead. Keep.
Versus it's better for me to say something.
Okay. Doctor, the connection is really bad. Your face is paused.
I am not really sure. Yeah, I'm not really sure.
MashaAllah, the beauty and the nur I appreciate, of course, from your face, but it's still I can't.
Yeah, I'm not really sure finding the source of the problem because I
think the connection is not. PCs are not accepting it.
No. The connection from mine is actually pretty good. I just checked it. It's actually pretty good. But can you go on to the last question, Sheikh, if that's okay? Have you heard my last question?
Okay. Yes, I did. I did. Yeah. But Doctor, but you're paused though. You're still.
Okay.
Doctor One?
Yeah, I could hear. I could hear you.
Yeah, I can. Doctor?
I could hear you. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but your face is still. I'm not. I just want to make sure that as I'm speaking that it's going through.
Yeah, I think, and that's fine. I think that Sheikh Yousef, are you using your computer or your cell phone?
Okay, so what I was saying, what I mean, the one is that we're not gonna go see. There are Afwan, Doctor?
I'm saying that the issue. I think the issue is at your end, Sheikh, because even some of the people are saying that. The issue. Yeah, the issue is not. Yeah, if you see this, Brother Hassan Sharif is saying that the connection is not mine is connection is good. Allah yazik al khair, habibi. I think it's from your end. Maybe you want to use your cell phone to do this, Sheikh, so we could.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this.
Yeah, maybe the. Well, let me see if this one works.
Should I turn this off?
Yeah, this is good actually. This is actually really good.
Okay.
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 Okay, beautiful.
So what I wanted to get at
So this was good.
Okay, let me shut this off. Because I couldn't see you. That's why. That's weird.
Yeah, this is actually pretty good. This is actually very clear. Look at it.
It's weird. Is it better than the PC?
Beautiful, much 1,000 times better.
Okay. So what I wanted to get at we'll do this. Okay. So what I wanted to get at, Dr. Marwan, is that when we talk about given nasiha or al-amr bil ma'ruf wa nahy 'anil munkar, there are two extremes. Okay. There's an extreme of those who say, "Oh, I should just worry about myself. Who am I to judge others? I should just worry about my sins." I mean, as humble as that sounds, it's artificial. I call it artificial or superficial humility, right? We all fall short, and I need you to pick me up where I fall short, and vice versa, right? So to completely turn a blind eye while someone is causing havoc, carnage, and damage, I don't think that's good for that person either. So that's one extreme, is that, or as Dr. Yasir Qadhi said, we should zip it. That's one extreme. That's
not an Islamic principle, right? You do you, I do me, let bygones be bygones, bygones be bygones. That's not an Islamic principle, okay? Now, the other extreme is people who will go, they'll look for the faults of people. They don't find good in anybody at all. Everybody's a mubtadi', everybody's a dal, everybody's misguided, and they feel like they're there to save the world. That's also another extreme as well. But what we want is, we don't want this extreme, but we also don't want to entertain the other extreme as well, because both of the extremes are not rooted in Islam. However, what we want is, there's a place in time for da'wah. And so your audience does not misunderstand me, Dr. Marwan. We're not for embarrassing people. We're not for putting people down. We're not for bragging someone and bringing them and pointing their faults out in the open or in the middle of the crowd. We're not doing that, right? So what I want to make sure is, we're not here because we're looking for the faults of people, but we're also not here, right, because we think that we're better than everybody else, or that we have the keys to paradise in our pocket and we're condemning everybody else to hell. No one is saying that, and no one will say that, and no one should dare say that. All right.
So I'd like to respond to Brother Lee Drill. If you could, this is a question, Sheikh Yousef. I heard that brothers should not advise sisters if they're being hypocritical. Like, for example, a brother should doesn't keep a beard, so should he refrain to modest a woman? That's actually an excellent question. I like that. It's actually a very good question. How would you respond to that, Sheikh Yousef?
Wallahi, shuf, yani the ulama, they talked about this, even as a khatib, as an imam, as a person of knowledge. Is it permissible between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you speak about something wa anta la ta'ti, right? So for example, is it permissible for you to give the salat, to talk about the nawafil prayers, the supplementary prayers, if you will, the 12 rak'at a day, when you yourself, for example, you might not be offering that, right? They said that it is okay. Okay, here's the question is not, is it okay or not? The question is, are you credible? That's, I think, where the question is. So for example, if a sister sees you, dear brother, you're sagging your pants, you're smoking weed on the corner, you're playing video games in the Muslim room offered to you by and then you come to the sister and you say, sister, I just want to let you know, you really got to put your hijab on, or I saw you flirted with these guys, or this or that, the other. You're not going to be taken seriously, although what you said is haqq, although what you said is reality, but no one is going to take you seriously because of, again, we judge the book by the cover, right, Dr. Marwan?
True.
You know, so much for the...
in reference to Bani Israel, أتأمرون الناس بالبر وتنسون أنفسكم وأنتم تتلون الكتاب أفلا تعقلون. Do you tell people to do what is right and you're doing the opposite? I mean, as you put it beautifully, that it is important that the person needs to be credible. That does not mean whatever he's saying is wrong, because technically speaking, just like you have mentioned, we're never going to be perfect. I mean, just to respond to Brother Lee, we will never be perfect. And if we're going to wait for the status of perfection for us to give advice, then Allah, then all of us should be zipping it, then I should zip it.
We'll never get it. We'll never get to that point. So no one's ever going to give advice to anybody, because we're never going to reach that point. That's the status of the angels, right?
That's true. So I wanted to kind of go back to the last question, Sheikh. So you kind of referred to it in a different way, but what is the balance between being quiet and saying something? When is it appropriate that someone should say, Wallahi, I should say something, versus Wallahi, this is maybe time for me to be quiet?
You know, there are times where you don't want to create a problem. There are times where you don't want to create a big fitna. There are, so in other words, you don't come to someone at a good event, they're having fun, and you feel like you have to give them advice. You're going to spoil the moment, and that's something that they're not going to forget. So there is a place and time for da'wah. Just because you see something wrong, it doesn't mean that now you have to speak up on it, or you have to speak against it. Right? In other words, there are places and times where it's probably better off that you turn a blind eye and you just keep walking. Maybe it's not the right time. Maybe it's not the appropriate place, and perhaps you are not the right person to deliver that nasiha, because that person has a personal vendetta with you. In other words, they will not accept nasiha from you, but they'll accept it from someone else. So sometimes you perhaps want to go through someone else. You want to go through another person whom they will take seriously, especially if you know this person has a personal vendetta with you. They don't like you. They don't like the way you look. They don't like what you stand for. Maybe it's better for you to use it and go through someone else. And one other thing, perhaps when we're talking about nasiha, Dr. Marwan, is we don't want to be predictable. Right? Meaning predictable is we don't want to be the person who people start running away from because they know when they see you, you're going to have something to say. We don't want to be predictable. Being predictable is a huge turnoff, and we don't want to be those people.
Being a da'wah police, as soon as you're being approached, well, this guy's going to say something. I mean, the thing is, and this is part of the arts of being a da'i. I mean, the thing is, the issue, if you're going to expect that you're going to open your mouth every time you're going to say something, that's actually you will turn people off. Even if whatever you're saying is right, it's whatever. Let's say whatever you're going to advise them on is 100% authentic, 100% correct, but they're also people cannot they cannot handle being criticized every time you see them. I mean, every time there's a right place and a time and a place, I don't know, right there.
Yes, no, I agree. So I just want to clarify one more time, Dr. Marwan. I'm trying to juggle this phone here, but we don't want to be predictable. We don't want to say we have to come to terms that enjoining what is good and forbidding what is evil is the bedrock of our religion. When you are a Muslim, you are literally signing a waiver saying, I am open for criticism. No, I didn't say I'm open for being humiliated and embarrassed in public. No, but when you are a Muslim, you are literally signing a waiver saying, I'm a Muslim, you're a Muslim. When I fall short, I want you to guide me. And when you fall short, I'll guide you. All right. And that's where it stops. But to completely turn the other way, under the pretext of having love, when you love someone and they're going towards a brick wall, 80 miles an hour, I would hope that you would stand in their way and not allow them to get in that vehicle, right?
Right. So because we were kind of being cut off, Sheikh, would you mind repeating some of your commentary on the response of Sheikh Yasser al-Qadi? Because I think it was a lot of glitches. I don't think many people have heard what you need to say. If you don't mind repeating that, just like with a little bit of to kind of summarize your input in this one.
Sure. What we said here is there are two ways that what Dr. Yasser al-Qadi said. There are two ways that people can take it. One direction is some people can interpret it as brothers have absolutely no say and no right to tell a fellow Muslim or give a fellow Muslim a nasiha. And of course, I don't think this is what Yasser al-Qadi meant. I think what he meant is that brothers who are predictable, brothers who are literally the haram police out there, haram meaning that they feel like it's their obligation every minute, every 10 minutes, every hour, they feel like anytime they see something that is against the Sharia or something that is haram on campus, they feel like it is their duty to speak up at every given moment. And yes, as we said earlier, this becomes predictability. It's a huge turnoff, and I wouldn't advise anybody doing that. But again, we just wanted to do this to clarify to people that if he meant that, then we also support that idea that we don't want to be predictable. We don't want to turn people away and turn people off. And we don't want to feel like we have something to say every given moment, right? But at the other token is, if he meant that we should just remain silent and it's no one's business and we should just all worry about ourselves, then we want to say it loudly and clearly, unambiguously, that this is not of our religion, and Allahu A'lam as to what he meant. We will assume he meant the first part, and Allah knows best.
Jazakallah khair. Sheikh Yousef, I wanted to end with this, guys, and I think this is extremely, extremely important. First of all, when someone gives an advice, don't think it's easy on us to give an advice. This is we have to because thing is, before, and I'm just going to talk about myself, before I think of advising someone, I have to think about what I'm going to say. The whole point of giving advice that you don't want to harm the person in front of you. You don't want to sound harsh. So it's a lot of pressure on the person who's giving the advice because he's literally laying himself out there. So this is extremely important. So it's not easy on us to give an advice. This is something you have to understand. So, look, you're just no. I don't want you guys to think, oh, this guy he just love to criticize. No, it's not that. It's hard on me. I mean, I'm coming out of my comfort bubble for me to tell you that you are doing something wrong. So this is important. In the same token, brothers and sisters, and especially the sisters, when someone comes and advises you, yani, part of the adab of the nasiha, the etiquette of receiving the nasiha, is to take, especially if the brother is saying something right, it's accepted, even if he possibly it came out in the wrong way. Because and this is for me, and I'm gonna say this about myself. I'm not gonna mention anybody else. Okay, this is me, Marwan Muhammad. Okay, I think that when someone tells me something that I am not doing, the way I'm going to receive it is gonna hurt me. Of course, because this is as you are. My grandmother used to say, as you are putting a lemon in the wound. What's going to happen when you put a lemon onto a wound? It's going to hurt. You put salt into a wound. What's going to happen? It's going to hurt. Why? Because it's infected. Because pus is coming out of it. Because now you're trying to clean it. And of course, in the same way, when someone come to advise me, and I felt a little bit hard, that means that I am missing something. That means that going to be benefiting to what the brother is doing. So this is very important that it's okay to receive an advice and it hurt a little bit, because that shows that you are deficient in something. There is something that you need to work on and improve. And I think today's topic was, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen, we have covered many things, and jazakallah khair. Sheikh Yousef Sousi was very, very elaborative on this issue, because we want to make sure that people understand the etiquette of advice. We want people to understand how to give an advice in a balanced way, and we want to make sure that we comment on what Dr. Yasser Qadi has said, so people would be able to understand it in the best way.
If I just may add, medicine is not supposed to taste good, right?
Of course. Tell me about it.
That's the whole point. Nasiha it's not meant to taste good, but we take the medicine not because we like the medicine, but because we're looking forward to the outcome.
It seemed like brother Hussam Sharif he's active in commenting. He's giving good comments. He said it's really sad that we have to even have a discussion about this. I absolutely agree with you, Akhi. When a Muslim give an advice, I thank him because he's trying to help me to go to Jannah. Ya Allah. Allah yarda alayk, Akhi Sharif. This is very good. And how can I say, love your brother and sister for the sake of Allah. This is very beautiful. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you for your comments.
I mean, Dr. Marwan, if I would like to add as well, maybe one last thing, and I'll let you take it over. The one thing as well is when you're talking out in public and you're speaking about things that the majority of your fellow brothers are not talking about, it makes it even more difficult. You're really throwing yourself under the bus.
Yeah, of course.
So in other words,
opening yourself for criticism. I mean,
yeah, Doctor, if other mainstream du'ats, and I don't want to mention names again, if other mainstream du'ats were talking about hijab, we're talking about how women should carry themselves, etc., it wouldn't seem so controversial. It would be normal. And Muslim women would think twice and say, yeah, I really got to get myself together. Muslim men or whatever. But when you're the only one speaking about it, out of a myriad of hundreds or thousands of du'as, well, the problem, you're gonna be portrayed as someone, you're gonna be marginalized as someone, you're gonna be depicted as someone who has a problem with the sisters. Because had it been important, my YouTube sensation would have spoken about it, my favorite imam would have spoken about it, but how come they're not speaking about it? You're the only one. So there must be, people will think and get the idea that it's not important, or you're just hallucinating and you're just extreme. And that's not the case.
That's true. This is definitely true. And that's the issue of the intention. I mean, are you listening to the advice of certain individuals versus another. Why? You know, you have to, because things you have to ask yourself this question, like, why I'm just listening to certain people versus another, you know? Because thing is now, because the truth, we should be accepting a truth from anywhere, you know? Anyone who comes out with the truth, then we should take it.
Yes.
And the question is, are you being racist now? Are you being anti-men? Because you have to ask yourself this question, because why is being taken from certain individuals versus another? Allah musta'an. May Allah the whole point of this, ya akhwan, ya akhawat, our intent is not for us to upset anyone. Our intent for us to make sure that we understand our deen in the best of way. We want to understand the methodology of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, of how he used to advise people. And subhanAllah, and we're not bringing anything out of our pockets. This is how things should be, and we want to clarify what some of the mainstream speakers are attempting to say. Jazakumullah khair. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward all of you. Please, if for all the people who are watching, please share this video and comment and like it, so we'd reach the maximum number of people بإذن الله تعالى. جزاكم الله خير. سبحانك وبحمدك نستغفرك ونتوب إليك والعصر إن الإنسان الذين يعملون الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا. جزاكم الله خير.